all around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Threw my boss out the window and got fired for my last job. Hot wired a city truck and turned it over in the mayor's yard. Beat my brother-in-law half to death. Lost 20 bucks on his football bet. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Good old boys, we're all the same. Ain't no way we will ever change. Ain't no harm out of things we do, or the trouble that we get into. Other than a wild hair once in a while, we can't help it, it's just our style. Good old boys, it's all we'll ever be.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show, live from the Atzenhofer studio in beautiful downtown Victoria. Ash, Brent, Wade and Carter. January 7th today. 2026, my first show of 2026. Glad to be back.
I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened yesterday.
It just perfect storm.
Yep.
The first time in 9 years, in our 10th season, that I just smooth overslept. And then when I got here, which didn't take long, thank you to VPD for not pulling me over as I was literally flying down Main Street. I opened the program like we've just done, and it is no different than in about 5 minutes, it just shuts down. So it was a perfect storm. Cody Bauman says, thank goodness he's back. Cody Bauman, part-timer, is here on occasion. But it was a perfect storm because you weren't here to open the show without me. Cody wasn't here to have everything up and running. And we just, so Monday, greatest show of 2026. Yesterday,
Bar was set. The Tuesday got scared of Monday.
Worst show possibly ever. Yeah. And then there's today right here in the middle. But having you back makes it a bonus. The Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. 64 degrees and cloudy in Victoria, Texas, heading to a high today of 81. So it's like partly sunny, partly cloudy.
Dense fog advisory in effect till at least mid-morning, so just be careful on the roads. It is pretty foggy up there.
Yep.
Saw it coming in yesterday when making the drive in from Houston last night. It was starting to roll in, so there we go. Ricky King, Greg Garcia, Bobby Leister, reminding you it is called a Wednesday. Get into Veracruz today. Enjoy a steaming fresh bowl of caldo.
There you go.
Marina Sherrill, Linda Crisp. Good morning, Marina. Cody Bauman, Scott Snow, Heather Stewart, Andrew Alvarez, Lisa Poole, Marvin Mickish, Micah Patton. There's Pat Matula checking in.
Hey, Pat.
Rep the band's T-shirt and hat when I was in Canada. Pat had people asking, "Who's that?" That's a good friend of mine's band. So there we go. Tammy Keeling, David Glass, Scott Tomko, Mark Kurtz, Justin Glass, Mark Zapata, Jordan Glass. Good morning, everybody.
Hello, Glass family. Mark.
Thanks for tuning in. Like and follow, like and subscribe on YouTube. Do all the things you need to do. I recruited a couple more followers in Canada, so our presence is growing. And I might even have a Canadian from the left call us every once in a while.
Wow.
Yeah. I tell you what, Trump is a polarizing figure in the Great White North. I had to stop some conversations or I might have lost some friendships over it.
Well, I don't understand.
I don't either, to be
I
honest.
don't understand where, you've got the left, and we could dig up. You've probably heard by now the cries, the pleas by Chuck Schumer about, Donald Trump. This is back after the 2020 election. Chuck Schumer just going nuts that Donald Trump hasn't done a thing to get rid of the Maduro regime. And Chuck Schumer, well aware that as early as 2015, Barack Obama, his idol, Barack Obama had declared Nicolas Maduro a threat to the national security of the United States, but did nothing. January White says there's been a head-on collision on Oliver Road, so try to take a different route out of
out of the nursery area. No doubt, I'm going to just say the fog was a reason for that, because those roads, when it gets foggy, sometimes you can't even see the road.
Beware the moors.
Absolutely.
But no doubt, let's listen to Chuck Schumer after or during Trump's first term.
We'll get it.
Words. Maybe the best metaphor.
Listen to Chuck.
Listen to Chuck here.
He brags about all these things he wants to do or is doing, but his actions belie his words. Maybe the best metaphor was his claim to bring democracy to Venezuela. There was a big policy there. It flopped. If the policy was working,
Chuck flopped right there because he had no clue what policy he was talking about, and he was then he was trying to catch himself up. Anyway, I'll continue to play.
Juan Guaido wouldn't be in the balcony here. He'd be in Venezuela. He'd be sitting in the president's palace, or at least waging a fight to win. He's here. And the president brags about his Venezuela policy? Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began.
So then he gets rid of him, and now he's mad at him.
Then he gets rid of him, and Chuck is upset because Trump apparently did a military action without, requesting the support of Congress, which there are so endlessly many military actions. I mean, Barack Obama dropped 90,000 bombs on, who was it?
The Middle East, basically.
The Middle East, basically.
26,000 in 1 year.
Without ever asking Congress for any permission. John F. Kennedy barricaded the island of Cuba to keep the Russian missiles out. Never talked to Congress about it. No. These things, Trump's action was a police action supported by the Department of Justice, arrested Nicolas Maduro, and the United States military helped them enforce an enforceable warrant. So here's the problem that I have with the left. The hypocrisy is rampant. The hypocrisy is endless. You wanted the guy gone. He's gone. And then you want to question the means by which Donald Trump allows you to sleep at night. It's not ideal. Not one American life lost in this situation. So whether it's to protect the oil companies' interests that were all dismantled by Chavez, or whether it's a human rights issue that we've seen for decades in that region, or if it's to keep Russia and China from having a political and energy-driven foothold in our hemisphere.
Which I think is the bigger play.
It is.
As
or
close to us.
If you just want the oil, any one of those things, to me, certainly when added with any of the others, is an adequate reason to eliminate Maduro. Make no mistake, he could have just sent a SEAL team in and killed the guy. Never lose sight of the fact that we could have just killed him. But instead, we legally brought him back to the United States to stand trial for enforceable warrants, and we showed the Chinese and the Russians that once again, we can do what we set out to do.
U.S., we're here with a warrant. I mean, that's what happened.
That's right.
They served the warrant. They arrested him.
Right.
No different than the FBI went after Roger Stone.
Yeah, and I did read
Armed
comments
to the teeth.
I did read comments by Chevron saying it is paramount to us the safety and security of our people. But that's a standard disclaimer
No,
type.
'cause
They're
here-
not going to say we can't wait to go drill tomorrow.
Well, Chevron's already there and they've been drilling.
That's right.
That nothing's changed there. They're the one that's been allowed to stay when Chavez nationalized Venezuelan oil, which
Right.
here's the thing. Here's the funny thing. I mean, did a little history reading on this. It was fair game for companies until the 70s, and then they nationalized it, then they denationalized it, then they nationalized it, denationalized it. This is what's been going on.
I don't disagree with Bonnie Howard. He says it's Monroe Doctrine, and we did talk about that yesterday. Well, I gave a primer on the Monroe Doctrine on Monday.
But
But it is oil and drugs, especially the drugs are definitely a cover. I'm sorry to tell you that I don't think Donald Trump cares about the drug trade. I really don't.
because drug deaths are falling in this country. They've been falling for 2 straight years. That's the difference. And I don't think, and certainly shoring up our southern border has helped.
No doubt.
Blowing up the drug truck. Nobody's talking about the drug boats anymore.
Well, they've almost quit coming. And
Well,
and the
they
fact
have, but-
is, how the oil companies feel about what Donald Trump did doesn't really matter to me. As soon as the regime change is done and Venezuela is safe, you can bet they will all be there in mass. There's no way they're going to go, no, we're not going
We're
back
not
to
doing it.
Venezuela.
Well, yeah, no, but here's the other thing. In doing some reading, Venezuela has lots of oil reserves, like by some accounts, the most in the world.
303 billion. Yeah.
But my understanding, and somebody who might know more than me here, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's very heavy oil. My understanding is there's a limited market for it. China was that limited market for the most part. I read somewhere that some of it could potentially come to Corpus Christi and be refined on the Gulf Coast
Right.
because they're set up to receive the heavy oil from Canada. But from what I read, this oil's even heavier than the stuff coming out of the oil sands in Canada.
They were really fat dinosaurs back then.
Absolutely. So it's not like this oil has a huge market, and it's not like it's going to just all of a sudden the price of oil is going to drop because all of a sudden the market's going to be flooded with Venezuelan oil because the market is
Correct.
very limited for this oil.
Correct.
So the left is sitting here crying, oh, it's about the oil, it's about the oil. And Donald Trump has fueled that by saying, yeah, we've got the oil and we're going to get 50 million barrels a day or whatever was reported this morning, or we're getting 50 million barrels from a big deal. Doesn't do a heck of a lot, to be honest. Helps replenish the reserves.
It just
Biden
keeps
sold.
China and Russia from having it, which is part of the whole deal. That's part of it.
And the other thing it does, it puts China and Russia on notice that the regime has changed in the United States. This is no longer Biden, and you're not going to be able to do what you've been willing and wanting to do in the Western Hemisphere like you did in Peru when you went in there under the guise of building a port, and it became a place where China's largest naval ship can dock in
Yeah.
Peru.
A lot of that is symbolic, and a lot of that is like, the Chinese wanting to colonize, if you will, with their friend Russia, them wanting to come and get a political foothold in our hemisphere is straight Monroe Doctrine stuff.
But
It's
not just
straight
them.
what it is.
The Taliban and Hezbollah have been going through Venezuela and up into the United States.
Yeah, there's an island out there called Margarita Island where ISIS has been training for years. Hamas has been training people also for years. Yeah.
Maria says Democrats are mad because Trump doesn't back Machado, who is now praising Trump. Here's the other thing, though, that nobody's talking about. We got Maduro. What really changed? Next, call me up.
Yeah,
The vice president's in there now.
Delcy Rodriguez, who was appointed vice president by Maduro. What's interesting about her is her original comments were extremely loyal to Maduro. She said this is a kidnapping, this is a oil grab, but in a matter of 24 hours, she changed her tune to, it is important that we have a positive relationship with Washington. I have a feeling that once she sat in the president's chair, that Donald Trump called her and said, we will kill you. That I do. I think I do. I don't have a warrant for your arrest. The next drug boat that comes here, I'm blaming you for, and I don't have time to arrest you. I don't have time for all that, so we will just kill you. And I think that made her change her tune.
It's an interesting take. I don't
So
see it that way.
I
But
don't
here's-
know where
yeah.
we are with the Donald throwing his weight around. I don't know exactly how I feel, for example, about Donald Trump saying we need Greenland. I don't know how I feel about that. I do agree that strategically we have a need for a major presence in Greenland. I also know that the entire population of Greenland, the entire population of this semi-autonomous country
Ice-covered nation.
that's affiliated with Denmark and still is under their king, I don't know why we can't just have a large leased presence in Greenland. In function, if we had a large base there that met our military objectives of deterrency between Moscow and it's the same distance from D.C. to Greenland as it is from Greenland to Moscow. So you could see the importance. Trump the other day said that the European Union and the Brits are going to say that we're overstepping our bounds, but they also know that their security is tied to the U.S. having a strong presence in Greenland. I don't like that Trump's just going, we're going to take it over. I'll use the military. I don't like that.
Yeah. I'll buy
But that
it.
doesn't mean that I'm right. He just doesn't have time to fool around.
Well, what it does is it gets people off the fence and from sitting on their thumbs and actually to the table to negotiate or work out a deal, right? That's really what it does. It gets people moving because these things, it's government. Nothing moves quickly. Donald Trump doesn't like that as a businessman.
Right.
Good, bad, and different. He moves quickly. And government doesn't.
Monty
And
Howard,
governments don't.
Monty Howard says, as long as we don't recognize the appointed VP, Trump's options remain very broad. I agree. Trump's latest political comments involving the midterms say, if you don't get Republicans elected and reelected, then get ready for the impeachment garbage to start again.
Well, the other thing I've noticed with the media and the newly, I guess, installed president of Venezuela is the leftist apologist media is out there already. This is another commie, folks. This is Maduro 2.0. This is who was Chavez 2.0.
They were calling her an economic reformer.
Yeah, that's leftist media speak for somebody who is willing to play nice because they're afraid for their life and their lifestyle. They don't care about the people of Venezuela. If she cared about the people of Venezuela wouldn't be living in squalor.
Yeah, they're ecstatic. You've seen celebrations in the street.
Absolutely.
I've heard Venezuelan Americans or folks that are here legally on different radio shows just saying, oh, this is great. I had to flee Venezuela. I still have family there. I think this is great that the U.S. has liberated Venezuela. In general, I don't feel like it's the U.S.'s role to go around doing that, but our national security and our interest in this hemisphere are affected by Maduro. And the fact that you can go back to Barack Obama talking about Maduro being a bad guy as early as 2010 makes you know. I saw a meme the other day. It showed Barack Obama saying, let's negotiate, and Maduro saying, I will blow things up. And then you see Biden saying, let's negotiate, and Maduro saying, I will blow things up. Then you see Trump saying, I will blow things up, and Maduro says, let's negotiate. Apparently he was negotiating until the very end, and Trump said, I'm through negotiating. I told you to turn yourself in. We have an executable warrant for your arrest in this country. And we're going to grab you and your wife.
Speaking of which, how many of you leftists out there, and I know you watch and you listen,
Sure.
were mad because you're all old enough to remember Panama in the late 80s under Bush?
Oh, none of them were upset.
None of you were upset when we went in and grabbed Manuel Noriega on
That's
the same premise of drugs and money laundering for the cartel and then sent him to prison for life, basically, right? None of you were mad, and that cost Panamanian lives.
Yeah.
We did not do that as well as we did on the weekend in Venezuela. We went in there and were there for weeks and killed, some say, thousands of Panamanians in trying to get Noriega, and nobody was mad about it.
It's simply
They
an
praised it.
anti-Trump position.
Exactly what it is.
They have an anti-Trump position that everybody in Congress, on both sides of the aisle during the Barack Obama years, everybody in Congress agreed that Nicolas Maduro was a bad guy who needed to be ousted in Venezuela. Not because, at the time, it wasn't just because of drugs or oil or Russia and China affiliation. It was over human rights.
Absolutely.
The guy was a bad guy, and everybody agreed with it. Chuck Schumer calling out the president. You haven't done a thing about Maduro. Then he does something about Maduro, and you didn't give him due process. I mean, they should have just killed him. Really. That's what they should have done, is just assassinated him. The country would still have celebrated. But instead, Trump says, no, I'm going to send the Department of Justice down there. I'm going to let the military back them up, which, by the way, all of this has been vetted as following precedent, and all of it is perfectly legal. There is nothing wrong with what Trump did.
All
And
Trump
they know
has
it.
all Trump has to do to shut down the leftists' criticism is replay what we just played with Chuck Schumer
That's it.
and go, Chuck, I just did what you wanted me to do 6 years ago.
That's right. But Chuck's a hypocrite. The left is riddled with hypocrites. That's all.
And
you get.
and I'll be honest, I'm mixed on this a little bit because I think Maduro had to go for human rights purposes. I've talked to former student athletes who left under the Chavez regime. They left family behind. They got out of there 18 years old. I know how bad it was. I've listened to their stories. But here's my concern. I'm worried that the military-industrial complex is starting to take hold of the Trump administration. What's happened in Venezuela? We're chasing a bunch of Russian oil tankers right now, apparently, and Russia's being playing a part in this.
No doubt.
They're reflagging ships in the middle of the ocean under Russia flags so that they can have some Russian naval protection. They're mid-transport and they're changing flags because why? Well, the U.S. blockade is having some effect. They're not able to get their oil to China or Russia, or to Russia through China, however you want it to go.
Well, there's no doubt. People just don't, I think, see yet that we are absolutely at war with Russia and China. We're just not firing bullets at them.
Monty Howard says, it's unlikely Noriega was sending major dollars to the U.S. politicians. No, I agree, and I think that was sort of a statement because we were still in the war on drugs back then. Remember that?
Yeah.
Another one of U.S.'s failed wars.
I saw a list. I can't verify the list, but I went down the list. These are people that are all being supported in part by Nicolas Maduro, and our own John Cornyn's name was on the list. I'm not saying that John Cornyn did anything wrong. I'm not saying that John Cornyn should not have accepted a donation from, let's say, an oil company out of Venezuela. I'm not suggesting he shouldn't have done that. I'm saying the fact that his name was on a list, for example, where our own Michael Cloud, Chip Roy, Rand Paul, their names were not on this list. So it's just of interest to me that, Torrin Bell says, meanwhile, the left supports Tim Walz. We'll get to that after the break. Let's take a quick break. First of all, always thrilled to be in the Atzenhofer studio, celebrating 100 years Atzenhofer dealerships. You may know them as Atzenhofer Chevrolet, the Chevrolet house. Since Ed Atzenhofer sold that first Chevy 500 in 1926, somebody from Tommy Taylor's family has been at the helm of the Atzenhofer dealership. Celebrating 100 years this year, Atzenhofer. Go check them out at atzenhofer.com. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends. Get into Palace Bingo and see what's going on. Lots of fun to be had, lots of things you can do at Palace Bingo. The games of skill and chance. You will love it. Get in.
Veracruz Restaurant, Caldo Wednesday is today.
Yeah,
Get
you
by
can't
and
go
enjoy.
wrong.
You can't go wrong with Caldo.
Fantastic.
Yep.
You've got to get in and see them.
USA Concrete Coating. For all your concrete coating needs.
Sand
We're
it,
not-
seal it, stain it, paint it, whatever you want done.
We're not that far from pool season, folks. If you've got a patio that's kind of cracked and dilapidated around your pool, give them a call.
An ugly pool
They'll
deck.
make it look great.
They can do it. I'll tell you that story in a second.
All right.
Wacky Wing Wednesday at the Chopping Block. Get in today and save big on pre-marinated. Are they They're just marinated.
They're just marinated,
Marinated wings. They could have been pre-marinated.
They were pre-marinated before the marinade went on them.
Absolutely. That's how good they are. These chickens walked around in a raspberry chipotle sauce. They were boneless chickens. They really just kind of swam and floated. Get into the Chopping Block today. Great beef, hamburger. I still find their ground beef is phenomenal. Get in and get that.
Longest flight by a chicken, 13 feet. I've been told.
Now, I want to tell you about Allen's Wrecker Service. Well, besides Allen's, 578-6300. Allen is your go-to toe-to. Any problem you got, I look right there, boom, Torrin Bell's. He's used Allen's. We've both used Allen's.
Multiple times.
Never been anything but thrilled. Not even close to like satisfied. Just thrilled. So fantastic, Allen's Wrecker Service. I want to tell you what's going on at White Trash Services.
Please do.
White Trash opened up a new program.
Okay.
BJ Nelson said she and Scott had felt led to give back, give more than they already do to our volunteer fire department. So in all the counties and all the areas that they represent, if you come on board as a new customer and you agree to I'll give you a 1-year commitment. They'll lock your price in. They'll give $25 to your local volunteer fire department.
Nice.
If you 2 years, they'll lock in your price and they'll give $50. 3 years, they'll give $100 to your local volunteer fire department and lock your price in. Wow. So it's really a win-win for you because number one, you've got to have trash service.
Yep.
Number two, if it's X number of dollars a week, they'll lock in that price for you, and then they'll turn around in exchange for your commitment. They will give $100 for over to your local volunteer fire department for your 3-year commitment. They're not going to give them $30 a year. They're going to give them $100.
But here's the thing: if right before Christmas, our local volunteer departments in Victoria County were stretched thin on one day. There were car fires, structure fires, accidents. They were all pulled.
There was the Aggies Bowl dumpster fire.
There was that too. So it just shows you just how thin the resources can be, to the point that our city was responding to things. They couldn't help. The volunteer fire departments couldn't help out. We were stretched thin, and people don't realize it.
First State Bank of Louise, quick update on athletics. By the way, I took Rylan the other day.
Yep.
Painless deal, 15 minutes. We took a passport because he needed identification. But we got him a checking account for free, First State Bank of Louise. He got a free pickleball set for signing up.
Nice.
And he put his money in the bank, got a debit card with his name on it as we waited. Seamless deal, no pain, no expense. It was fantastic. Now,
Cowboys.
Cowboys suck. What was that guy's name?
Everfluss?
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Fourth defensive coordinator in 4 years. The problem isn't the DC. The problem is the lack of talent on the defense
That's
to
right.
make the DC, to give the tools to a DC who can actually
Which goes back to
do
the
something.
GM and president.
Yeah. And
Jerry
you and-
Jones needs to just own his $12 billion team and get out of the way.
And you and I have talked about it forever. The problem on the Cowboys isn't the offensive side of the football. It's the defensive side of the football.
Amen.
And they cut Diggs right before the end of the season, let him go because all his guaranteed money was basically done after this year, and the rest was all,
he was a ne'er-do-well, troublemaker.
Yeah.
And, the problem is if you're not productive, you need to find a way to not be a distraction.
And here's a guy who got hurt and said, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to rehab myself,
They didn't
and then
like
showed
it.
up at training camp, and he wasn't ready to play.
And then after the Christmas game, he said, I'm just going to stay up here with my family. And they said, no, you need to be on the plane. And then he missed the plane.
Yeah.
And that's when you just cut ties with the guy and cut him loose.
Yeah.
They said it saved us time. We can cut him now rather than later. And I thought it was a good move to get rid of Diggs. The other thing I want to share with you is, did you see where Parker Livingston, pronounced Livingston, even though his name is obviously Livingstone, if you see it, he entered the portal. This is a guy, number 13, a redshirt freshman, caught a little under 600 yards worth of passes this year. And, hey, Justin Richter, he says he's out there in the Houston port. That's awesome. Be safe. Livingston decided to enter the portal, and he signed with Oklahoma. Now, that is literally like being a Union soldier and then having a sit-down meeting with Robert E. Lee and joining the South. It's just incredible to me. But what do you think a guy was thinking when we have no running backs at Texas to speak of right now? You've got a quarterback who loves to throw it around. You've got a quarterback who is extremely high profile, whether he deserves it or not, on a team that couldn't be any more high profile. Arch Manning's going to come out next year as a front runner for the Heisman Trophy.
Making almost, between 5 and 6 mil a year in NIL money.
Why would you leave? Rumors have circulated that Livingston, who was still the number 3 receiver on the Longhorns, that the offense had become a little disgruntled with him because he kind of developed alligator arms late in the season, and he had a couple of drops. I accepted that. He was a redshirt freshman. I liked the kid. But he's also Arch Manning's roommate. And he decides, nah, I'm out of here. I was told that the university said, look, you deserve some NIL money. Here's how much it is. Basically, take it or leave it. And for some reason, he felt that he had some leverage.
Probably got more at Oklahoma.
He probably did, but that tells you also, to me, the state of OU, right? That they're willing to pay for our third string receiver.
I think it's a state of college athletics. You don't have to go and put all the money into recruiting anymore. You can just look at somebody's potential or what they've done and offer them a bigger NIL check.
That's right.
And they're gone. So
Corin Bales back to White Trash says, we had extra trash and set it outside the 2 trash cans, and they picked it up. No nasty note, just picked it up. Thank you, White Trash Services.
Yep.
They are definitely your partner.
If your lid's ajar, they're not going to not pick it up.
Oh, yeah, like the city of Victoria looks for a reason not to pick up your trash.
Yeah.
And then they'll get out and put a sticker on your can to tell you why they didn't do it. But they won't help.
No.
Very
So we're going to
interesting.
get to Tim Walz, but real quick, a little bit more about I think something that's not getting a lot of attention, except in the Epic Times. It's the only place I've seen this story now 3 times since the raid on Venezuela on January 3rd, I think it was, or 4 days ago.
Yes.
Apparently, we had no problem dismantling the air defense systems in Venezuela that were made by the Russians and the Chinese.
Yeah, and they turned off all the lights in Caracas as well.
So
Trump's so funny because some super duper technology we have. Just, he doesn't understand. He didn't do it. He just said, hey, they did it. But the Chinese had supplied an air defense system to Venezuela right there. They're in our hemisphere. China is helping arm them against an invasion by the U.S. that they got to go.
yeah, China sold it to Venezuela saying that it can deter F-35s from approaching.
Good luck.
Apparently that didn't happen.
No.
Couldn't even stop helicopters from approaching.
No. No problem. When you can measure an operation in terms of hours, within 5 hours, by 3:30 Eastern Time, U.S. forces had Maduro and Flores, that's his wife Cecilia, aboard the USS Iwo Jima. They were flown then to the United States.
Where he pled not guilty yesterday in a Manhattan courtroom,
Yeah,
being held in the same prison that Ghislaine Maxwell was held in.
right.
Not that that makes a big
He
difference.
probably won't hang himself. No.
Yeah, so, pay attention to what's going on in Minnesota, folks. This is my take on this, because what's got less play is similar fraud in Massachusetts by Somalis,
Leftist states.
but I don't think it's just the leftist states that are prone to this.
You think it's the
I
states
think-
that have Somalis in them?
I think it's states that have any welfare programs that don't really have good checks and balances, which is probably every state, all 50 to be honest. I think the spotlight is on Minnesota, and Tim Walz decided, well, I'm not going to run for another term because Donald Trump's just too mean to me.
He's being a
basically-
bully, is what he said
yeah,
about Trump.
He's trying to play the victim here, when in fact, there's whistleblowers that I think 8 years ago said, hey, we've got some serious fraud going on, and his administration did nothing about it.
No, that's true. And what gets me is, again, when we say that the left is always on the wrong side of these 90-10 issues, where is the left? Where is the outcry? I would not call you a hypocrite if you were a raging Democrat idiot. That is not like a redundant. And you were to say, I am appalled at the fraud in Minnesota. I can't believe that this was going on right under our eyes. And if you acknowledged the fact that at some level, government personnel had to be involved to either A, help this proliferate, or B, manage the paperwork, there had to be an organized lack of oversight, Ash, that allowed this to happen.
Or payments back to people
Amen.
to
So,
facilitate this. But here's the thing with the media. If you call it out for what it is in Minnesota, fraud, at least as we know right now, being perpetuated by a bunch of Somali refugees, they call you a racist.
oh, no doubt. Yeah, you know, because you're picking on the Somalis, and many of them are just hardworking folks, just trying to make a living, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, no. But here's the thing, folks. All the spotlight's on Minnesota because other states don't want to be known. They don't want to be looked at. I cannot believe this is happening strictly in Minnesota, and I can't believe that it's strictly the Somalis taking advantage of this. I think it's almost anybody who deals with an NGO who probably has figured out a way to game the system in all 50 states, except for Hawaii and Alaska, where it's not allowed by law. But this will start turning up in every single state in this country. You watch and see.
No doubt.
Wait and see. It's going to happen. Every state is going to find that there is fraud, and their social services are being ripped off, and people are getting benefits for which people are not getting benefits
I would
because there
say
are
that-
no people to get the benefits.
All the way down to FEMA, for example, anywhere there is government oversight and government funds available, there is some level of fraud that is active. And that's one of the reasons that Donald Trump has said, I want to get rid of FEMA as a Washington-based ATM. I want to give the money to the states and let, for example, the Texas Emergency Management Group handle those deals because the fraud is so rampant. What nobody has really on the left, while nobody on the left has just blurted out the obvious, hey, we were that close to having an inept military appropriating idiot in Tim Walz. He was that close to being vice president. Him and cackling Cam honestly ran for president. And the left, in their anti-Trump hysteria, were willing to vote for those fools. That blows my mind.
I don't think Musk's team found that. Well, maybe
No,
because this is but it's Minnesota stuff, and I think it goes into probably federal funds going to Minnesota and then out. But here's something that's been uncovered in the state of Washington. Pay attention to this one. You had two Somali families living side by side. Each one claimed to be an in-home daycare. Each one claimed to be looking after the other one's kids, although at the time they weren't the other one's kids. They were just, these are the number of kids that we're looking after. And since they couldn't look after their own kids and get paid by the state, they said they were looking after other people's kids to get paid by the state. They were making $16,000 a week off the state of Washington to look after their own kids.
Right.
But they did all the paperwork to claim that they were in-home daycares, and all they were doing was using the other kids from the family's other kids, their sisters' kids, their nieces and nephews, to claim that they were looking after them. Apparently fudged a bunch of the names so they couldn't trace them back to being kinfolk. And they were each getting paid $16,000 to stay home and look after their own kids.
Kathleen Leininger says the equivalent of hardworking Somalis is warlord terrorists looking to steal money wherever they can find it. I listened to a guy the other day that was a military veteran, and he talked about being in Somalia and how that when you left the base, by the time you got to where you were going, the Somalis had stolen everything off your truck that wasn't literally bolted down. And at the time, of course, they couldn't just shoot them, so they didn't. These Somalians, there's only 260,000 of them in our country legally. About 80,000 plus are in Minnesota. You need to denaturalize their citizens, load them up, and send them back. You need to send them back.
Yeah, and what, 70 some odd percent of Somalis in this country are on some sort of government aid?
71.4.
71%.
Yeah.
There you go. And that's all Somalis, whether they're, yeah,
Yep.
and the list goes on. We're paying so much money for high percentages of people who are here as refugees or immigrants of some sort, whether illegal or not, or what. I mean, here's the thing: when you're on a visa, because I know, I had to swear and sign a statement. I could not be on any government assistance or deported. People used to joke, "Oh, you came through the wrong border. You came through Canada and did it legally. You should have just come up through Mexico, and you'd have been fine." And as much of that was a joke, it's not funny because it's actually true.
Jennifer Rayburn points out, like our own Gulf, what's it called?
Gulf Bend?
Gulf Bend does a great job. She says, understanding is the state leadership called for additional steps. Measures are already in place, and our local team does excellent work in proper distribution and credentialing. The additional double check is intended to serve as confirmation for Texans that distributions aren't being misspent, as I understand it. I don't think that Governor Abbott wants that on his resume. I think he's going to stay on top of that.
Here's I haven't heard of anybody coming forward in the Texas State Department of Health and Human Services or whatever the equivalent is in Minnesota saying, "Oh no, we told the governor about this years ago." That's the difference. In Minnesota, they told Tim Walz about this,
Yes.
and he did nothing.
He's based the Texas Workforce Commission Jennifer's talking about. Linda Chris says, the Democrats showed them how to commit fraud. I guess that's what makes me the angriest about the whole situation. They also showed a congresswoman how to make $30 million in 1 year. I have to wonder how long they've been doing it if they're showing other people how to do
They've been doing it for at least, 6 or 8 years that
At least.
that the people in Minnesota said they first brought this to the attention of Walz or
Yeah,
the-
that goes
of the
back to
government.
2015 as well. They've seen fraud there for
So,
years.
Yeah,
This,
Massachusetts goes back to 2018, is from what I've found online. But you're going to find out probably every state there's some level of
Sure.
corruption. That
Well,
this is
and I
happening.
say I agree with Kathleen Leininger on this. They are not contributing to our country in a positive way. Their naturalization needs to be revoked, and they need to be returned to
if
Somalia.
they've been found guilty
Absolutely.
of participating in this fraud against the state of Minnesota,
Load them up.
bye-bye.
Yep.
I have
Good
no
morning,
problem
Tommy
with that.
Kingston.
No problem with that.
Yeah, I think it's a great plan just to load them up and send them back.
And if they find out that they were here fraudulently from the get-go, then I have no problem with that. If
That's
they
right.
forged paperwork, fake names, whatever they did to get here,
Married their cousin or brother, Ilhan Omar.
but you're racist if you want to force other countries to actually provide proper paperwork for the people coming here, because well, we can't hold them to that standard. They don't have the government to produce papers on birth certificates and things like that.
I guess
There's always the excuses from the left.
what gets me is the idea that even though we're being somewhat extreme, that there's zero outcry from the left. Whatever just happened to right and wrong?
Well, you're a racist if you claim that you're trying to show that they're fraudulently gaming the system.
Wouldn't it be an endlessly beneficial thing for the Democrat Party if someone in their leadership ranks, if Hakeem Jeffries were to say, this is a tragedy in Minnesota. We must cross the aisle, embrace each other with our moral compass in hand, and get to the bottom of this. But they don't. They defend Timmy Walz. They agree that Trump is bullying him into not running again. The guy's a criminal, and he's trying to get out of town before he gets caught. I don't understand. Can anybody explain to me, aside from their complicitness, their willingness to go along with anything that's anti-Trump, why wouldn't the left be like, this is an outrage, I can't believe this? Tim Walz, get a hold of your state. No, because he's a Democrat. We're going to stand right by him, right there on the deck of the Democrat Titanic, all the way to the bottom. That's what we're going to do.
And I'm not absolving a bunch of Republicans in Washington, D.C. who've done nothing but make money and get rich off the backs of taxpayers, because they know that, hey, we're going to vote on a bill that's going to give Raytheon a huge bunch of money to build a bunch of missiles. Oh, and I just happen to buy a bunch of Raytheon stock 2 weeks ago, or my holding company did.
Tommy Keeson says, big word, that complicitness. He says, you got it. What it does is it makes people think, and then I define it for them, and then they finally catch on to what I'm trying to say. Scott Snow says, all the left ever does is say, what about this? Or let's talk about this instead, just beating around the bush. Yeah, it's these false equivalencies of,
But then they want to hold Governor Abbott accountable if there's any fraud in this state, but there's no, but they're defending and excusing Tim Walz because why? He's a big fat guy who's
yeah, he's a goofball.
He is a goofball.
Yeah.
And the problem is the folks in Minnesota, you elected that idiot.
Tammy Williams says, on a positive note, our border is closed. I know for a fact that some students were not able to come back to school. Amen. Because they were not allowed back into Texas. As sad as that is for the innocent children, parents have been here long enough to take care of their business. I don't disagree at all. Is it sad? If they had a semester of education in the United States, they can go back to Mexico or Guatemala or
China
Honduras or China
India
and
or
learn.
Pakistan, wherever they came from.
Yeah.
And we've talked about immigration reform on this show many a times. I think there's ways to do it with compassion for the kids, the dreamers that have been here. You know what? If they've got a spotless record,
Yeah.
and they're going to be productive, trying to be productive members of society, give them a green card for life.
But you can't be a citizen. You can't vote.
That's where it ends. No
That's it.
citizenship, no voting. If they're truly here because they want a shot at a better life,
Give them a chance.
then give them that chance. And the only way to do that is by working in the U.S. and making money legally, because that's what they say they want.
But I challenge any of you over the next couple of months, because there's going to be hearings and subcommittees and a bunch of ridiculousness. I challenge any of you to report back to us when you hear a Democrat, when you hear an elected Democrat in Washington, D.C., when you hear that person say, this is an outrage, the scope of this is immense, something must be done.
Fetterman, maybe?
Maybe Fetterman, but he's a stroke victim. So, there's a chance that because he's a Democrat who lost his mind, there's a chance he's like a broken clock and he might be right twice a day. I challenge you to find that comment and send it to us. You will not hear the wholesale condemnation of what's going on in Minnesota. It's okay with them because it's not Donald Trump.
Meanwhile, Mamdani in New York is appointing people to his commissions and panels and other things.
Guys are
who
straight up
have
communists.
Outwardly, publicly
Absolutely.
issued statements in support of radical extreme Muslim terrorists, Islamic terrorists, and condemnation and hatred for this country.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of the collective. That's the new mayor of New York. You know who used the term collective quite often? Stalin, Mao, Mussolini. Blatant call to communism. The collective, the group. What's good for the group?
Yeah. You know what's
Go
interesting?
read Animal Farm.
What's interesting with Mamdani in New York, remember he was all about rent control and seizing property?
Yeah.
Well, he made a statement around New Year's Day after being sworn in as mayor about his solution for housing in New York.
He was going to seize property.
Well, he was going to, but he didn't. He vowed to work with the private sector, turn over some public land to the private sector to build more housing. Why? Because the supply side is how you fix it, not government owning it.
That's right.
But you get a
Get
real.
all the illegals out of New York, and you got plenty of free space to rent.
But the leftists didn't claim that now all of a sudden he's a capitalist. But he realized he had no basis for doing what he claimed he was going to do when elected. He can't just go in and seize property and grab homes from people. He has no power to do it. So instead, well, you know what? We're going to have to work with the developers, and we're going to have to free up some public land because there is no private land to do this. So but the left is not even. I mean, it's just hypocrisy. The left is always.
Jennifer Raber says New York housing czar has stated that home ownership is the very basis of white supremacy. And when we talk about Animal Farm, it's the idea that, well, all animals are created equal, except the horses. And that's when Mama Dani, that's who that is. He's the horse.
From says Mamdani also lied about his security clearance, claimed he had been provided information about Venezuela, then retracted what caught in a lie. What mayor has security clearance that would allow him to know what's going on about a military, I should say, an arrest warrant being executed in Venezuela?
That the Trump administration is going to give that guy any information. He will be frozen out by the administration, and rightfully so. New York, as much as it is already a dumpster fire, is about to become the next dumpster fire.
The fleeing of people from New York. I won't be surprised if Houston becomes the third biggest city in the country in the next couple of years.
3615.
Well, I just tried to call your man. Hang on.
So, what else, real quickly, as we before we take this call, if we can, see what happens here.
It's ringing now. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, happy New
man,
Year,
Brother
brother.
Gary Moses joins us live. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. I'm rehabbing. I've got some more work to do.
Good.
we want to wish you, all your listeners, all your family, Happy New Year, the best of 2026. We've got a lot to do this year. We're rehabbing now, and we'll be back in touch on this Wednesday. Good morning, and we love all of y'all. Happy New Year.
We love you.
We love you too,
appreciate
brother.
you checking in, brother.
Still Ash, same thing, and the rest of your crew. Love you.
Yes, sir.
All right,
We
I'll
love
be
you.
back.
Let's talk in the days ahead, okay?
All right.
We
All
love
right.
you, buddy. Get well.
Yep. Take that rehab seriously and get well, brother.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
the call. Happy New
Brother
Year to you
Gary
as well.
Moses checking in, wishing all of you a happy new year. Yeah.
Here's something that I think worldwide it's getting a lot of exposure. I don't see it being quite the level of exposure here. This is huge, folks. The Iranian people have finally had enough.
Yep.
The Persians are standing up. Some of the video, where's the outrage collectively in this country? Where's the left, particularly? Oh, the police and the brutality on George Floyd. You've got video of the IRGC in Iran just openly firing on unarmed protesters in the street chanting against the Ayatollah, gunning them down.
The religious leader who reigns by terror, certainly always against the best interest of the United States. The difference this time, Ash, is you have a president in Washington who will back the protesters.
Heard him this morning saying if things continue the way they do in Iran,
They're
the
gonna
U.S.
pay a
might
price.
get involved. There will be a price.
Amen. And I can't.
But it'll all be about oil if he does, according
Oh,
to the
yeah.
left.
It won't be about human rights no matter how many people are liberated. I can't help but look at the accomplishments of the administration and realizing that you've got an operation that happened in Iran that literally crippled their ability to develop nuclear weapons. The left was adamantly against that because he didn't go and beg Congress for permission. They were adamantly, the left just, it's an outrage, it's an act of war. I'm waiting for Iran's retaliation. And then he goes in and executes a perfectly legal, made sure there was a DOJ guy on the plane to arrest Maduro and legally used military backup to enforce the warrant.
And to protect our forces executing that warrant.
Absolutely. Trump just has a better legal team than the left. That's a fact. But nobody...
Because he learned in his first administration he didn't quite have that legal team.
Are you going to keep trusting your gut, or are you going to start believing your lying eyes? Why don't you just look around and look at win after win after win and just accept that the man has done more in 1 year than all the way back to George W. Bush got done in all those terms? You'll recall that in his first term, he moved the capital of Israel to where? To
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. I was going to say
The
Bethlehem.
embassy.
That's Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where Jesus Christ was born. The North Star right over the Twin Towers. You look back, though, and Trump has done the things he said he was going to do. The world is on notice. And I don't feel less safe in America than I did before he took office. Joe Biden had us unbelievably vulnerable. You know, I mean, they're just, and Scott Snow says the left is just rusty after years of no pushback. They were allowed to run roughshod during the Obama years. More and more coming to light of just how corrupt his administration was.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting too that Stephen Miller was being questioned by CNN. Did you really just go in and take the leader of a foreign country? And basically Stephen Miller just said, "Yeah, you're darn right." So he did.
Dang right. He was guilty. He's on trial.
Anybody else? This is my observation. Is it me or is J.D. Vance becoming Mr. Irrelevant
He is
in this
too.
administration as vice president? As much as I thought there was some excitement early on and that he might be being groomed to be the president, I think right now, I think it's Marco Rubio.
Yeah, I do too.
Or maybe even Stephen Miller.
Rubio's been definitely more presidential. There's no doubt. And I don't have any problem with J.D. Vance. I just don't feel anything out of Vance that tells me he's the automatic heir apparent.
No, and I think 2028, the primaries are going to be a free for all, and it's going to be interesting.
Did you see where Macron's wife filed a defamation and like basically a harassment lawsuit against media people that were questioning whether or not she was actually a woman?
No, I did not see that.
I thought that was interesting. I mean, even Big Mike never addressed the media. I mean, it's like a rumor's never true until you deny it. Am I right? I mean, why would you even acknowledge that? Of course I'm a woman. Expect her spread soon on OnlyFans. Folks, it's the top of the hour. We're going to get out of here. Special thanks to the Atzenhofer dealerships for supporting us. We love you guys. Hope you win Wednesday. Get by Veracruz for lunch and pick up some wacky wings on the way home from the chopping block. And we'll see you mañana.
Bye, folks.